Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, I am back for hopefully what is a pretty decent time, although I will just like last summer, there will be a few weeks where I am gone off on vacation. But I will definitely be posting much more frequently than I was throughout the rest this past school year. But all right, let's hop right into it. Enough of this. Reminiscing here. All right, so I think first we should address the NBA championship. Because it's like, I love it. I mean, I don't mind big markets winning, like the Yankees or the Celtics or, the Dodgers. I don't mind if they win. But, I think small market wins are ultimately more interesting. Because it's like, I mean, I expect the Celtics to do well. I expect the Dodgers and Yankees to usually contend. But I think Denver has a good way of doing things. I think they're very traditional. They have the fourth longest tenured coach in the league, and Mike Malone, who is, I believe, behind Spoelstra, Steve Kerr, and Popovich. I think the order goes Popovich in first, then Spoelstra, then Kerr, Mike Malone right behind them. And I like that they were patient about it. And I think the reason small markets, when they have success, is because fan bases get desperate, I think big market teams get desperate because fans badger them. Like the moment something goes wrong, it's like, oh, fire this guy, trade this guy, cut this guy. But Denver was very patient with it. They didn't go crazy firing Mike Malone or anyone, or trading Jamal Murray, or making any crazy move that shouldn't have been made. And I respect, what I'm trying to say is I respect the way the matter it was done in, really. Because I feel like the Yankees, I didn't think Joe Girardi was a terrible coach. I think they could have given him a bit of time, but they didn't, because they weren't winning for long enough. And they haven't won in a while. But yeah, so congrats to Denver. Congrats to Nikola Jokic. He is a fantastic player. In my opinion, the best player in the league at this very moment. So, all right, let's move on to this. So, Ja Morant suspension. He was suspended for 25 games, which is in addition to his previous 8-game suspension. So, I mean, I think Memphis is in a bad place next year. I mean, they're missing Ja for 25 games, which is very tone-setting for the year, the first 25 games. And, but it's his fault. I mean, he can't blame anyone else except for himself, really. He chose to act stupid. And I genuinely don't have much sympathy. In Memphis, they also lose Dylan Brooks. In this next year. And I think Ja is capable of redeeming himself. I don't think he is a horrible human being, essentially. I think he made a huge mistake, which is going to rightfully follow him, but I think he can always make up for it. It's just going to have to take him... It's going to take him a while, because he does not deserve... Obviously, he doesn't deserve complete forgiveness immediately after what he's done. So, all right, let's move into something more positive. So, the trend in the NBA over the last few years, or the last few decades, honestly, there's always those two specific players that are always kind of not necessarily competing with each other, but they're above all else. This goes all the way back to Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell back in the 60s, They were the undisputed two best players there. They weren't necessarily always competing. Russell won significantly more than Wilt. But Wilt was a significantly more skilled player and he put up much better numbers. Probably a more fun watch for most people. But it was them in the 60s. 70s, there wasn't really a matchup. It was kind of... Kareem was the king in the 70s. But they made up for it in the 80s with Bird and Magic. That was one of the best rivalries in sports, definitely the best in basketball. Then 90s, it was kind of just, who can beat Michael Jordan. 2000s, it was kind of Kobe, Shaq, Duncan kind of deal. And then, you could say LeBron, Steph, and KD for the 2010s, although I think LeBron was the undisputed best player in that decade. But Steph did win more. So there is great value to that. I think Giannis and Jokic is the next one of these. I'm not saying it's gonna live up to, level of Bird and Magic or Wilt and Bill Russell. My prediction, I think Jokic is gonna win more, but Giannis is gonna put up. He's gonna have more memorable moments, better performances. He's just gonna be, like I said, a more fun watch. All right. So let's shift to football here. So Patrick Mahomes. Okay. So a few days ago, just in case you guys have the context of this, because I'm not sure how many saw it. I think Burrow and Chase were both asked about who the best quarterback in the league was. Burrow had in my opinion, the correct response, saying Pat Mahomes. Not only do I think he's the best quarterback, but I think it was the right thing for Burrow to say. I think it just causes controversy when you try to say you're the best at your own position. It could easily be perceived as arrogant. And, so it was the right thing to say for him. And, but I do believe Burrow is Mahomes' biggest competition right now. More so than Josh Allen, in my opinion. And it's another situation where Josh Allen's more talented. He's gonna... In my eyes, he's the more impressive player. But Burrow, I think, is a better all-around quarterback. Allen just has more talent. But anyway, Pat Mahomes, Jamar Chase stayed loyal to his quarterback, said Joe Burrow, and Pat Mahomes clapped back with a picture of his second Super Bowl ring, saying that's who, in response to Chase's comment. But honestly, I think this is great for the NFL. Honestly, this matchup that, I was surprised because this is one of my most anticipated matchups of the year. Bills-Bengals, not just in the postseason, but the regular season. I was surprised they put it so late because I think it's better to have these bigger games early, so that I feel like it just keeps people guessing because, you see what happens early in the season, and then you see what happens in September, and then later in, January, you're like, oh, I wonder how these teams have changed. So I think it's cool seeing the changes the teams have made throughout the season, but they decided to put it on, I believe, December 21st, December 28th, I'm not sure. Definitely one of those 2 dates, I'm not sure. It was in December, late December, which I don't think makes sense because then I think it produces a predictable result a few weeks later. And obviously, if the result is different, it's very exciting, but I guess I see what they're doing. I think what they believe is if they have it later, then it gives the chance that maybe they're competing for the 1 seed, the bye week, So I see what they're doing, but in my opinion, they should have had that matchup later. But good stuff for both the Bengals and Chiefs. I don't believe the Chiefs are winning this year. I believe it will be the Bengals. I've been saying the Bills a lot in the past few years, so I'm trying not to cling to that again. I do believe the Bengals are better at this moment. Better ran organization. But that could quickly change, especially in the NFL. So I'm not going to make too many guesses yet. I'm going to wait until probably August or something to give my Super Bowl prediction. All right, so at the Panthers camp, it seems Bryce Young has been getting a lot of praise. And I expect this of most quarterbacks. I think it's a huge red flag if they're not praising their quarterback. That shows you that they're not NFL ready, in my opinion. So I guess it's a bright spot that it's a good sign that they're showing confidence in him, especially Adam Thielen. Honestly, the Panthers, I don't see anyone in the NFC South going anywhere in the playoffs. It's kind of like the NFC East just 2 years ago. Where it was kind of like anyone who wins the NFC East is going to be a first-round exit. I think that's the situation with the NFC South right now. I don't like Tampa at all. Okay, you got Baker Mayfield. All right, man. Well, what's he going to do? He's had years in the NFL to prove himself, and the unfortunate truth is he hasn't. So I don't see why I should have any belief that he'll turn it around with the Bucs out of nowhere. But I'm not going to root against him. But yeah, so Bucs are not my favorite right now. I don't see them doing too well. The Falcons, very young team. I'm going to guess they get 5 wins max. Unless Desmond Ridder has a breakout year, then that can change. But, and then it's the Saints. The Saints aren't really anything special in my opinion. So I think if Bryce Young turns out to be... there's a lot of hypotheticals in this situation. If Bryce Young turns out to be at least decent, then the Panthers should win the division. But if he doesn't, they're probably not. But also on the other hand, you got the question with Desmond Ridder. So there's a lot of questions surrounding the NFC South. But I think they're going to be the weakest division this year. By far. And I'm going to pick Tampa to win. Not Tampa, sorry. The Panthers to win. That's how weak it is. All right. So the Warriors made a big change in their front office. They're promoting Mike Dunleavy Jr. To become their new GM. And honestly, the Warriors, they're in a pretty good position. At least for next year, in the short term, but I mean, long term, they got Steph Curry aging out is, he's not that Curry has showed signs of aging, but he's getting a lot older. He's really getting up there in age. And I think once they lose Curry, it's going to be a huge... I kind of fear what happened to the Saints in football is going to happen to the Warriors. They had great success with this one player for a long time, and once they lose him, they go down a hill. But I think if they plan well enough, I think they have to get... they have to get a big man. They've been the Splash Brothers for a long time. And that's worked. Their small ball approach has worked for the past few years, but it seems to be... look at the two best players in the game. They're big men. Jokic... look at some of the best players in the game. Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid. They're all... none of them are small. Trae Young, Luka, you can throw in there, but... yeah, Embiid, Giannis, Tatum's not really... Tatum's a small forward. Like I said, you could throw in Trae Young. But yeah, most of them are big men. I think if they get Karl Anthony Towns this upcoming year, they'd be in a good spot. But that's up to them. So there's usually 3 teams in the NFL, 3 new playoff teams that make it. That didn't make it the year before, or I think it might be closer to 6 or 7, actually. But I think the Steelers might be one of those teams, because they won 6 of their last 7 last year. And I do believe Kenny Pickett will develop a bit and get more used to the offense. But again, probably a first-round exit. I think they can top the Ravens in the division. And, for second in the division, obviously, the Bengals are going to come in first. But, that's the thing. The Browns... First, I don't think the Browns have anything to be excited about right now. So I think they're undisputed last. Bengals undisputed top. And then Steelers and Ravens are going to fight it out for second in the wild card spot. And I think the Lions are going to win the NFC North. The NFC is going to have a lot of weak divisions this year. I think the NFC North is one of the weaker ones. It has been for a while. The Packers and Vikings have been holding it up for a bit. But, I think the Bears come last in that division. I think the Lions are going to win that. I'm going to say the Lions win that division. just over the Vikings. It's kind of a bold prediction, but I'm not sure the Vikings were exactly legit last year. So I'm going to go Lions in first. I think the Packers with a new quarterback, I think they're going to have a great first half of the year. Or, not necessarily great, but more successful than people would have thought. Like, I'd say they start off like 5-3, maybe 6-3. As opposed to, what most people predict, which is probably like 3-6. So I think the Packers are going to be. I mean, eventually later in the year, Jordan Love will show his flaws, which are inevitable. But I'm going to say the Packers find themselves in a similar position to last year. I'm not sure if that sounds crazy or not, but I think they find themselves in a similar position last year, where they probably 8-9, 9-8, and fighting for a wild card spot in the last week. All right. So, as short as that podcast was, this is the end of it. That is the information I got. But I do plan to be back on Monday, yet again, and hopefully be very present throughout the summer. All right. Still Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, or Radio. Still Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Have a good day.